And we're back with the show. It's Gerald Glassford along with Melinda Barkhouse Ross. Thank you so much for watching and listening right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that magical 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you can like, share, subscribe, follow, or do whatever it is that you can to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Vampires and Vitae, of course, Wizards and Wine, and everything that we do, including the Lakers Fast Break. And if you want the latest news and trends in pop culture, go ahead and check us out at the Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook. Got a great conversation. We do this every year. It's one of my favorite shows. It is the conversation about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And here today to talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, who do we think will get in? Who do we think got snubbed? And is there anything that we'd like to change about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I always ask that question as well. Great guests indeed. You got to go ahead and check them out each and every time out at the Alternative Twist Radio. They are part of the fantastic Mike and Phoebe show. It is Mike and Phoebe. How you doing?
Hello.
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Great.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, always great to have you here. You're welcome anytime. Melinda and I, as we are on, first of all, we're so thankful for being on your awesome radio station. And obviously, before we head on out, you both will get a chance to go ahead and describe why they need to catch Alternative Twist Radio. So I want to make sure you mention that. That's going to be on the back end. But it is such an honor being part of your schedule. I don't know how you allowed us on there, but I'm so thankful that you did. Melinda and I, we seem to stink up the airwaves whenever we can. And we're just so thankful, though, that you have allowed us on the air each and every week. And we're just truly appreciative of it. But the talk now, the conversation, it's here. The candidates, they are live right now. And to everyone listening and watching, I do want to mention that if you want to vote right now on your 5 candidates, go ahead and check it out today at vote.rockhall.com. That's vote.rockhall.com. You will see all the candidates for this year right there. And so you can choose. Of course, you got to give your info as well on your email, probably, so I could send you some mail. But you know what? It's all worth it because you get to cast your official fan vote for the 2023 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'll start off with you, Mike and Phoebe. Mike and Phoebe, you're seeing the list now. It's there. It's a star-studded list as always. I don't think it's as great or star-studded as last year's. I thought that had a lot more heavyweights on it. But when you got Cyndi Lauper, Soundgarden, the White Stripes, Warren Zevon, Sheryl Crow, Willie Nelson, Joy Division / New Order, George Michael, Missy Elliott, A Tribe Called Quest, The Spinners, Kate Bush, who's still running up that hill, Iron Maiden, and Rage Against the Machine. That's not too bad.
Gerald, I love this list. Now, as far as for rock and roll, to me, my own personal opinion, there were some that were questionable. I didn't understand why they chose it for Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I love all these singers and the bands individually. Dolly Parton, iconic, legendary. Who can say anything bad about her? Love her music. Duran Duran, 80s, 90s, love them too. Grew up. Eminem, for a rapper, I love him. He's fantastic. Pat Benatar, everyone that you said, Lionel Richie, Kate Bush, and I love Rage Against the Machine. I grew up with them, so they to me are my most favorite. But as far as for rock and roll, Dolly Parton, is she really rock and roll? I mean, was my question. I didn't understand it.
In recent years, because she was inducted last year. In recent years, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has actually become more of the taking a blend of pop music in total, as far as different influences from R&B, rap, pop music, different variations of music, and become more of like the pop culture or pop rock, pop music Hall of Fame as opposed to that. I know there is a pop music Hall of Fame that isn't as large or as big as this, but the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I think, has gone out of its way in the last decade or so to try and induct members that just approach the music world, that affect the music world and its audience. So I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is no longer the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame per se. I think you should just look at it as an overall pop music Hall of Fame, but it even doesn't do that. I mean, it does border on, it gets bring us in country now. It doesn't bring in every aspect of the music culture still, like for instance, classical music, jazz. It doesn't do enough of, I think, there as well to honor that if you're really going to go out and grab all these different influences. But it's starting to see that as far as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is no longer just the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think that's something that I think as our culture and society has trended towards different ways and different things to become more accepting and more allowing and more diverse, I think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has done the same thing as well.
Yeah, and I completely understand that. All of the music that we get to, even from our indie artists, we have seen a trend that it's all meshing together, which I love. I love the uniqueness. I love the individuality. But when maybe I'm just old school, if they wanted to include everyone, which is, I love the idea. I love the inclusiveness and the diversity in music. But maybe you can call it something different, just Hall of Fame, Music Hall of Fame. And, Mike and I, we were talking about this the other day when you, pitched us to do the show. We opened up a conversation about country music awards too, not only Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but country music is going into that too. And, we don't really have to talk about that because this is rock and roll. But overall, the trend for music has been very diverse, which is amazing. But if you want to just include everyone, then you can say rock and roll, Music Hall of Fame, all genres Hall of Fame, something else. Because
and I mentioned that though, Pop Music Hall of Fame, there
yeah,
is one. It's very small, much smaller. Country Music Hall of Fame, it is a lot larger and well known. It is comparable to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But you're right,
yeah.
the Country Music Hall of Fame sticks to predominantly country music. So it's something where it's a catch 22. Again, I think it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame wanting to become more inclusive and bring in more a larger audience, and just because of that, they want to go ahead and reach out to other bands. But you're right, renaming it. In fact, I have actually approached this in recent years on my other conversations over the years. Is should they change that name? I think eventually they should. At some point, it's just going to be so many different artists that you cannot consider rock and roll that are truly great and should be recognized, that you just have to, I think, change it. Melinda, your thoughts on this? I mean, should it still remain the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
I think it absolutely should. I think that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I think the name of it, the title of it, is a little bit deceptive. I think when you think rock and roll, you think innovation. You think people who are pushing boundaries. You think people who are, taking bits and pieces of different sounds and putting them together and creating something new. And I think if you think about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in terms of that, instead of just like rock and roll music, but rock and roll in terms of the attitude and the approach to music and the approach to innovation, I think it starts to kind of take that argument of you're allowing pop music and all of this stuff into a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but it's the artists that they're putting in, I think, that are the key. Like Cyndi Lauper, let's face it, is a pretty rock and roll chick. Like she she pushed a lot of boundaries. She was an innovator, or she is an innovator, I should say. And I think that she absolutely deserves to be on a rock and roll list. She might not be a rock artist exactly, but I think that she fits into more of a description of what it is to be rock and roll. Does that make sense? You know what I'm trying to get at, but very
Oh, yeah.
poorly, but trying to.
Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, my thought is there too is she says Cyndi Lauper. Well, what about Dolly Parton? She's mainly a full country type of person. The only one that I could even kind of half-ass see as far as one of the like kind of sort of rock and roll music. What she did was 9 to 5, but everything what she did was country music. So if this is a rock and roll type of thing, then why was she even on the list?
Well, you got to remember too that Dolly Parton was coming up in a time in country music, especially in country music radio, where you couldn't play two female artists back to back because that was bad programming in radio. So Dolly Parton, Tammy Wynette, all of those country ladies, I think absolutely faced some incredible challenges, and I think that their perseverance and their stick-to-itness and some of the innovations and boundaries that they pushed allows them to have the title of rock and roll. And I think that's why Dolly Parton's longevity is what it has been. She's been able to recreate herself, reinvent herself. And, Dolly Parton now doesn't sound like Dolly Parton when Dolly Parton started. So it's evolution of an artist. There's a lot of things that you can look at there that I think could make a little bit of an argument for it.
Yeah,
Wow.
probably.
Yeah, and Melinda,
go ahead, Phoebe.
sorry, I was just going to say, Melinda, when you say it like that about the attitude, rock and roll attitude, pushing boundaries and coming up, being an innovator over, decades, and
Right.
all these people here on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame are innovators and are amazing artists. They push the boundaries, so they have that rock and roll attitude, So I understand what you're saying then. So I think it just may be a little bit of confusion, maybe when people see the list, oh, it's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then they see, oh, it's different stuff. Now, if it's about attitude and being innovative and having a long career in music overall, then absolutely, every one of these deserve to be on the list.
Absolutely. Some great names and great artists. And again, that debate will continue, I think, as long as the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame still says the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And you have some individuals from all sides of the spectrum weighing in on it. Again, it doesn't touch on every single aspect of the music spectrum. Obviously, classical, operatic voices, I think, should be recognized. If you're going to recognize from so many other aspects of the music spectrum. So I think if you're going to include it, but then again, it gets farther and farther away from the name Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the more that you do that. So, but it's about awarding excellence and the best of the best. And I think that in many cases, not all, that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame gets it right. There are still some artists that have been left out in the cold repeatedly. And I know that we'll cover that because that's the juicy part of what I talk about on the back end of the show is our snubs. But for now, all right, we're sitting in the office of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Just picture it. We're all sitting in the boardroom. Melinda is drinking coffee. She's probably drawing some sort of thing out of Robbie that's making him look bad. Oh gosh, maybe like extra long hairs out of the top of his head, while she's listening to my boring speech. So I'm going to ask you now, we're in the boardroom now. We're trying to make the decision on exactly who gets in to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So it is 5 candidates. That's what you're allowed to vote on. And once again, it is Mike and Phoebe from Alternative Twist Radio. Please go ahead and check out them today at Alternative Twist Radio. Just go ahead, just type it in there on the search, Alternative Twist Radio. It comes right up for you. It is Alternative Twist Radio. I will mention that again, if you are going to vote, if you want to vote, you still have plenty of time. You have up until April 28th, so that's plenty of time. Vote.rockhall.com. And once again, the candidates are Cyndi Lauper, Soundgarden, The White Stripes, Warren Zevon, Sheryl Crow, Willie Nelson, Joy Division / New Order, George Michael, Missy Elliott, A Tribe Called Quest, The Spinners, Kate Bush, Iron Maiden, and Rage Against the Machine. And I will say the candidates that were chosen, they cover a broad base of decades, a broad base of years, and a broad base of musical influences. So I'm going to start with you, Phoebe. All right, we're in the boardroom, and I turn to you, Phoebe. Okay, I want you to go into a little bit of detail here. You got to pitch us. You got to pitch us here in the boardroom on who you think the 5 candidates for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be.
Okay, so Gerald, we're in the board meeting. Okay, the boardroom. So one thing that I wanted to talk about
I've
on
already
this
called for
list.
pizza, by the way. Pizza's on the
Okay,
way
good.
because it
Because
might take
it's
a
a
while.
long night. We've been here all night debating. We got to have something, some sustenance. So my top five snubs. Now remember,
Well, no,
I'm
snubs are at the end. Snubs are at the
okay,
end.
okay, sorry. I want to cut to the chase. I want to get
Yes,
there.
I
She
know
Okay,
does.
okay.
She's ready
snubs.
to get spicy already. It's great.
Trust me, I've done this show for years, episode for years, and the snubs are really what we want to talk about always because we are so
Why?
passionate about that. But
We
that
want
has
to
to come
know
at the
about
end. Yeah, they
now.
have to come at the end because maybe they'll be on next year's ballot. In some cases, I don't think they'll ever be on a ballot, but there'll be maybe some of them on next year's ballot, but we will talk about them at the end. But we want to go ahead and focus on the candidates now. As much as you want to do the snubs, and as much as I want to do the snubs, yeah. Well, just the candidates right now that are on the list.
Okay, so who are my top five, right? So first off, I love Rage Against the Machine. I love Def Leppard. I love Iron Maiden, AC/DC, and Journey. Now, when we were writing this list down, I'm very black and white in terms of what you tell me.
Well,
So I'm gonna.
Def Leppard and Journey are not on the list.
Oh, they're not.
No.
Oopsie, sorry. Oh,
Yeah,
man, I just started grabbing.
Journey's already been inducted, and I believe Def Leppard as
Oh,
well. I'm not 100% sure. Let me go ahead and check.
okay.
Oh,
Okay, so we got to go off this list then. Okay, because I was just
yeah.
grabbing people from anywhere. Okay.
Yeah, because it gets it all mixed up year out. Yeah, they were inducted Def Leppard in 2019. So
Okay. Okay. So definitely Rage Against the Machine because I love them. All time favorite. Let's
Killing in the
see.
Name of.
Yes.
yes.
Yes. And we actually saw a band that is a cover of Rage live, and they were amazing.
Yeah, they were.
Brass Against. I love them.
Yes.
So Rage, and then so now I gotta redo my whole list here, Gerald. Oh my God.
Yes, well, I'll tell you what. I'll let you go ahead and figure all this out. Get back to the drawing board on the scratch.
Okay.
You're on the scratch pad. You're like erasing.
Yeah. I gotta,
Erasing.
hold on.
And,
Get a pen.
does that go for you too as well, Mike? Do you have your candidates ready?
Mine will probably be the same way because we were going to bring some extra ones in. Because mine, I had Van Halen and ZZ Top, and
they've already been inducted.
Yeah.
Oh, they
have.
Okay, all
right. We already got our answers wrong. To hell. Okay. What the heck? Okay. So we got to go off this list. Okay. Let's see here. So I like
the only ones that are eligible this year is the ones I mentioned.
Okay.
Okay. See, this is why we're being in the board meeting. That's why it's so long. And okay. Yes. So Rage, Beck.
Well, Beck has already been inducted.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, best place to go, again, I'll tell you what, the best place to go is where you can go and vote. And I want to give everybody a heads up. It is vote.rockhall.com. That's vote.rockhall.com. So I'll let you go ahead and look at that and look at the candidates. I'm going to go ahead and turn to Melinda now. So Melinda, you've got the list. You know what's going on as far as you stopped worrying about your drawing of Robbie with the extra hair and all that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So by the way, everybody out there, Robbie is her husband. So good-natured fellow, a guy, terrific guy. We always love to tease him here on the show because, we cannot talk enough Warhammer without him. But I will say, Melinda, you've looked up, you're already mad that I'm already taking you away from your drawing of Robbie. So I want to hear your thoughts. Just feel free to explain on each one of your candidates why you're choosing them for this year's Hall of Fame.
Okay, so my number one pick out of my top five is Missy Elliott. You have to look pretty hard to find another female rapper who has impacted the hip hop world as much as Missy Elliott has, and her production, it kind of changed the way that people produced records. Her videos, even her innovation there, really put its stamp on the 2000s. And if you go back and you look at Missy Elliott dropped this video, and then you kind of fast forward over the next couple of years, and you see a lot of people taking some of the elements of her videos and kind of taking that and remixing it and putting it in their own videos. So Missy Elliott absolutely gets my vote for innovation. I still go back and listen to her early stuff like Super Duper Fly, stuff like that, and to me, it still has a freshness to it. It still sounds current. And maybe that's just because I've been a Missy Elliott fan since the first time I heard her music. I was like, who is this? What is she? Where is she from? I need to know everything about her. She's a genius, actually, truly a genius. And yeah, I'm always here for Missy Elliott. So I really hope that she gets in this year. She's my number one pick. I can't believe Iron Maiden is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I
How many
cannot
T-shirts
believe
have they sold? On
Right.
T-shirts alone.
Yeah, and not even everybody knows the song by them that wears the T-shirts. Like that
Yeah.
that's how permeated through culture they are. So yes, they should absolutely be on there. And then I put Cyndi Lauper for some of the reasons that we already kind of talked about. I do think that she was an innovator. She definitely created her own sound. She definitely had her own viewpoint that she expressed through her music and all of the creative stuff around that, including her music videos and stuff. So I think that Cyndi absolutely deserves it. And then here's where things get complicated for me because I know because as much as I adore Missy Elliott, I also adore George Michael, and there's so much about George Michael I think that fits the mold of what we should expect to see from people who are being inducted into something like a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This guy made his own way, and he started as a duo and then broke off and did his own thing, blew up his own image in a music video that featured all supermodels that people have not been able to recreate to this day. I really do think that George Michael fits. But as I'm saying that, I'm like, why am I not talking about Soundgarden? Why am I not talking about Chris Cornell? Why am I not talking about that voice that was taken from us?
Spoon Man is one of my all-time favorite songs.
Like, my gosh, Black Hole Sun really was the movement of a decade, if you want to put it, it's celestially almost. So that is two that kind of bump into each other. I want to put Willie Nelson on the list so incredibly badly. The guy smoked a doob at the White House. Like that's some rock and roll stuff right there, if you ask me. So I want Willie Nelson in there, but the Spinners, are you kidding me? Do we need to talk about that? A Tribe Called Quest? So the last two spots on my list are still a little wishy-washy. I'm still pulling stuff out and plugging other names.
You got to give me a hard 5 by the end of our conversation. Okay, I'll go ahead and hit you up for your full 5 here in a minute. But you've been very good at explaining that. Yes,
yeah, just the last two. Yeah,
absolutely. That's why we're in the boardroom. We're trying to hash this out. So, Phoebe, have you got a updated list on your candidates for this year's Hall of Fame? Okay.
Yeah, so Rage Against the Machine, still my top one. Next one, I like White Stripes. Love Jack White, like White Stripes. Then Iron Maiden was on that list, right? Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah. Then Soundgarden and Sheryl Crow. I love all those bands, and that would be my top 5 pick.
Any elaboration as to why you chose either of those artists?
Yes.
Specific reason. I mean, obviously, musical taste is obviously goes into it a little bit, but is there anything else as far as the impact on our culture or the impact on rock and roll as a whole, or music as a whole, on why you think that they should be allowed into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Yes, Rage Against the Machine is my top pick. It's very nostalgic for me. I grew up listening to them. The message that they send out when they sing, they're very powerful. And so many other bands go to them for their influence. There's so many other bands, like you said, Melinda, the attitude, rock and roll attitude. They're all about that. I mean, there's no question about that. Next, White Stripes, same thing. They're not as rage and angry as Rage Against the Machine. However, Jack White, he's still very iconic to this day. And Iron Maiden, obviously, tons of influence on the music, and even when it's not rock and roll, not metal, but they influence pop. I think they even may go into a little country influence in terms of who they influence. Soundgarden, same thing. You hear them in movies, the soundtracks and everything. Sheryl Crow, she has opened up so many gateways for women and being empowering, things like that. So those are my top 5, and it's about the influence for the culture too. So it's not only music but culturally.
Oh, that's actually a great list. Absolutely great list. So Melinda is just going, she's scratching out. She's doing some scratching out. She's like, oh, maybe I should change that, or maybe I should fix that now in the boardroom. Mike, I'm going to head over to you. So you heard Phoebe's 5. And it's okay to have a different 5. I hope it will not cause any strife for the morning show if you do. But, well, there's a murder on television. No, I'm just kidding. There's a murder in the boardroom. No, I'm kidding.
No.
But your thoughts, though, on your candidates for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And yeah, please elaborate as to why it means so much to you to have these artists be inducted.
Well, my first one would be Soundgarden, but I have a conflict on the first one for Soundgarden and or Rage Against the Machine. If I was to actually pick one of those, I would still probably pick Rage Against the Machine, because they do have a lot better music than Soundgarden as far as rock and roll goes. But that would still be my first pick, is the one I actually picked was Soundgarden in that aspect. I mean, now if I could change it, then I'd probably go with Rage Against the Machine.
But
Both of those,
it sounds like you're picking one from that grunge or late 90s era, or mid to late 90s era. So if you had you can pick both as far as your 5, because you got 5, but it sounds like you only want to pick one.
Yeah, and I think that would be Soundgarden. The reason why I say Soundgarden is because Soundgarden is good for a lot of different things, not only just rock and roll music, but also for movies and epic type of things there as well.
Even if Rage Against the Machine doesn't win this year, or Soundgarden doesn't win, or any of the candidates, that doesn't mean they can't be nominated again. There's been several artists who've been nominated 3 or 4 times before they're allowed in, or 3 or 4 times period. So I think that is goes without saying that you might find them in our boardroom next year per se. So yes, so you got one down though, one down. Okay, let's hear those other 4.
My second one, and the only reason why I was picking him is because now that we're able to pick country music, because that's all this guy is Willie Nelson. And you can't get any more iconic than Willie Nelson. I think he's the longest living country music singer that's pretty much around still. I don't know if it was because he smokes too much or what. I don't know, but hey, he's still around. He still does very good music. So that would be my second second one. That'd be actually on the list. My third one, which would be Iron Maiden. They do pretty good music too, but that's why they're right at the middle. My fourth one would actually be Sheryl Crow. She has done very, very good music. She has been. That's why she's number 4. Number 5 would be Missy Elliott, and she's done quite a bit, but I still want to put her at the top 5.
Okay, fair enough. Got a great list so far. Before we get to my 5 candidates, Melinda, have you nailed down? As I'm banging on the boardroom table, have we nailed down your final 5?
Yeah, so I had 2 spots left, and I stuck with my original instinct, and that was to add George Michael and Willie Nelson both to the list. So that rounds out my top 5.
So can you clarify your top 5? Because I'm
Absolutely.
sure people don't remember exactly what you said 10 minutes ago. So.
All right, so we got Missy Misdemeanor Elliott at number 1, Iron Maiden at number 2.
I didn't remember what you said 10 minutes ago.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate ya. So yeah, Missy Elliott number 1, Iron Maiden number 2, Cyndi Lauper at 3. Then I had George Michael, and then I have Willie Nelson.
Okay, fair enough. That's a great.
I was influenced by Willie Nelson there, wasn't I?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Once again, it's the Pop Culture Cosmos, Gerald Glassford and Melinda Barkhouse Ross, along with our guests, Mike and Phoebe. Mike and Phoebe from the Alternative Twist radio show. You got to go ahead and check out their entire great list of music that they play, the great shows that they have today at the awesome station known as Alternative Twist Radio. Go ahead and check them out. Each and every time out, the Mike and Phoebe show appears on the air. But before we head on out, I got to go ahead and mention my five as the debate continues in the boardroom here of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The imaginary Rock and Roll Hall of Fame boardroom is right here, virtually per se. But I'm going to start off with George Michael. When I go ahead and give my candidates, I talk about not just the influence they had on pop culture at that period of time, that they were great, but just their success and were they at the top of their not only the charts overall, but were they at the top of their field compared to other groups that had similar music that they did. And I'm going to say George Michael, who at one time was in the top five, not only talking about after with Wham, with Andrew Ridgeley, but also after Wham, he obviously scored huge hits in the 80s and early 90s as far as what he did as far as the music scene. So I think you cannot have this list without George Michael being a part of it. I just think that he is probably of anyone on this list the most successful, or at least the one outside, maybe Willie Nelson. But I think of this list, he's probably the most iconic, most well-known name on this list. And obviously, every Christmas, his music still transcends and will continue to transcend longer probably than any of these artists, even if it's just the Christmas song that he's best known for. Soundgarden is my number two, and Soundgarden to me was we always talk about Nirvana, dominating that 90s grunge era. Probably not, I don't say a close second, but a distant second, but still a second would be Soundgarden as far as the group that probably emanates and probably think about as a grunge band or as a
Hmm.
grunge success. Probably list Soundgarden as that. I do want to go ahead for number three and say Iron Maiden because I think everybody is surprised that Iron Maiden has already achieved that level since they've been together forever. They've been so iconic. Their music, as far as metal is concerned, has achieved outstanding records. They'll never make a top, as far as a single, a top 10 or anything like that. The metal scene has always been different, but that they've been no less successful. Obviously, they've toured around the world so much, and of course, their Iron Maiden T-shirts have become so much of an iconic part of what been. Like you said, like Melinda said it best. There's probably people just loves wearing Iron Maiden T-shirts that have no idea what Iron Maiden sings. So I think again, Iron Maiden for me is number three. Willie Nelson, he's on the road again, and he's going to be heading on the road again to Cleveland. Well, with the full, I could see him going, take the highway to Cleveland with, just like smoke, like a Cheech and Chong movie, just like filled up with smoke, just like trailing and all that. But he is going to be I think he's also going to be inducted. I think his success, he is the first, in my opinion, country crossover success. Maybe you can go to Slim Whitman or some others in the 1950s and 1960s that sung predominantly country songs that transcended over to a crossover. But for me, in the 70s and 80s, I think Willie Nelson had hits that crossed over to a popular market that was not traditionally country. So and On the Road Again, I mean, On the Road Again is just such a famous song in and of itself. So I think you add him at number four. And I really wanted to put Joy Division New Order into this mix because of what they did as far as transcending 80s dance music, especially New Order. Blue Monday is one of my all time favorite songs. And I know how iconic it is. And I know some of their other songs have been replayed and replayed and replayed and replayed and redone in so many different ways. Even they have redone their own music for later distribution, but their music has been redone and so appreciated and for so many years. But I had to go ahead and say Sheryl Crow, who dominated the 90s. and was at right there as far as the top 10 artists for years, as far as the top 10 overall artists, as far as producing hit after hit after hit. Her music still transcends to this day. You will go walk through a department store, or I'll walk through a Las Vegas casino here, and I'll walk through and I'll hear her songs to this day. Right there. You'll still hear it. It's still it's easy to listen to. It still feels modern. It still feels like it was just made last week. All I want to do is, it just she's when she starts singing that, and all the other things that she's saying, it just feels like can transcend in every single decade and keep on going on because it just has such a modern feel to it. So I think the success that she had at her peak was right there. So my list is George Michael, Soundgarden, Iron Maiden, Willie Nelson, and Sheryl Crow. And Missy Elliott just missed the list for me. A Tribe Called Quest, I really like. Rage Against the Machine, brought out that political activism of the 1990s with their awesome songs. I love in the name, Killing in the Name of. But yeah, I think those are my 5 right now. So I've made my list. You guys have made your list. All of our lists are been sent in. So I think we're got a pretty good list of each of us so far. Once again, if you have thoughts on your list, you can send it to us at popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But I really want you to do is go to vote.rockhall.com, where you can go ahead and pick your 5 that gets counted. I will say at a recent article, who are the most popular right now? It's kind of surprised. Cyndi Lauper right now is leading the votes. George Michael is second. Warren Zevon is third.
That
Soundgarden is
surprises me.
fourth. Yeah, that one blew me away.
Yeah.
Soundgarden is fourth, and Iron Maiden is fifth, with Willie Nelson and New Order, and Kate Bush, Sheryl Crow, and then Rage Against the Machine rounding out the top 10. That is also one part of it. It's not just fan voting. Fan voting is one part of it. Plus, I think they go to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees, and also as well, I think the press are allowed to go ahead and get a share of the vote as far as who they think should get in. So that all that combined. So you do have some weight. So go ahead and vote today if you're interested. But before we head on out, this is the big part of the discussion, and this is where we get really into.
Finally.
Yes, finally, is that the artists, and we're going to go into detail on this, the artists that we feel got snubbed or continuously get snubbed from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I'm going to start with you, Phoebe, bringing it back to you, because we've all, after the debate back and forth, and we're all giving each other side eyes, like, him, that artist, come on, are you kidding me? Yes. So we've all given each other like side eyes for the entire time on each other's list, but now we're going to get into the snubs. The snubs is more wide open because there's a lot of artists that we feel should already be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So Phoebe, I'm going to start with you. Who are your snubs that got snubbed again for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Okay, so Gerald, I picked it from like the whole pool, every artist that I know of. So it's not just, limited to the nominee. So,
But you got to tell
you
me
might,
why, too.
okay. All right. So my top 5 snubbed: Black Sabbath. I love Black Sabbath. Why they were snubbed for Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is beyond me. They're iconic. You can't get more rock and roll attitude. The music, just everything. Culturally, political. I don't know about politically. Well, yeah, sort of. But my next is Leonard Skinner. Again, they're in movies.
By the way, Black Sabbath was inducted in 2006.
Okay, all right. So then, okay, so
your powers worked. Your powers worked there.
Amazing. I'm so happy. So my next is Leonard Skinner. Again, all the same reasons. Iconic. Why they weren't inducted. I love the music.
Skinner's in there. Let me check.
You're keeping track. You're just gonna give me an F on all this, right? You're not gonna let me go.
Well, I just want to make sure.
Nope.
I know. As Melinda says, I'm going to get added, so they're going to add us if they don't.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. They were 2006.
Okay. Well, I'm bringing them up again. They got snubbed again. Okay. Next is Guns N' Roses. Were they inducted at all? Were they
I would
getting to
probably
that?
say yes. They are 2012, I think. Yes.
Oh my God, my list is going. Okay. Eagles.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Motley Crue.
They are the big ones that have not. They have been
Okay.
snubbed. They're actually on my list, to be honest with you.
Uh-huh. And let's see here. I think that was my top five. Let's see, three, but four, five. Yeah. So that's five. Yeah, so I don't know, you want to knock some off, but those were my picks. If I wasn't paying attention from the last years, couple of years being in the boardroom, those would be my top five snubs.
Okay, fair enough. No, again, Motley Crue is one of the most year after year talked about snubs. They reached a level of success. Obviously, they're touring, their
Yeah.
tours around the world. They have generated a lot of music. And as far as hard rock slash heavy metal slash pop, they did
Mhm.
achieve a level of chart success that many of the groups that are already inducted or similar types of music, yeah, that they've actually achieved. I mean, they did the actual ballad that became a top 10 hit, like every other rock band of that era. They all had to do a ballad that actually charted so they could actually chart. But they actually had, Girls, 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 and other songs that actually charted that have done so well over the years. So yeah, I would agree with you on Motley Crue, no doubt, absolutely. Mike, have you got any snubs for us?
Yes, I sure do. Was Doors inducted?
Doors are inducted, yeah.
They were. Oh, jeez, Louise.
Yes.
Well, I'd still put that on the list, but let's try to do it again. What about Bruce Springsteen?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, jeez, Louise. Van Halen?
Van Halen, yes.
Jeez. ZZ Top?
Yes. I think it was recently. I think if I remember
Recently, yeah, the
correctly.
last couple
Yeah.
years, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was
Bon
before
Jovi?
one of the band members passed away.
Oh, yeah. Last one, Bon Jovi?
Bon Jovi, I believe is. Let me. I believe yes.
I got
I
an F
think it's
for
Bon Jovi.
fantastic.
Yeah. Actually,
We did not do
2018.
good.
2018. He.
Wow. Okay.
See, we missed those board meetings. We weren't. We were. I don't know what we were doing. We were somewhere else. We weren't paying attention.
No worries, no worries. But yeah, just do you have any that I'll tell you what. I'll let you go ahead and search a little bit more, Mike, to see if there's any one group that you think that's out there that hasn't been in. You could just basically what you do is on a search, Bing or Google, say is blank in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it'll tell you the answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another one for you to check out is futurerocklegends.com, and they have a menu on the side of the screen, and you can just go to, there's one for like the snub list, and you can see how many times they were nominated and all of that kind of stuff too. So you can have a look at that.
All right.
What is that list again? What is that website again?
futurerocklegends.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And down the side, you get the Rock Hall 101, latest comments, the ballot tracker, the class of 2023. It gives you all kinds of information on there.
All right.
Okay.
So future rock and roll. Oh
No,
my God.
futurerocklegends.com.
Legends. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Pulling it up.
No worries. All good. All good. This will sound a whole bunch better in post. Don't worry. Don't worry. But
It always does.
But
Okay.
I will say though that there's quite a few lists, quite a few that are I feel have already should have been gone in. They've influenced the music scene so much, and I really think that they should have gone in already. Melinda, I know you've got a list. You've looked at it really for a while now on snubs, and I know this is always the best part of the show. Your thoughts on who got snubbed this year of the snubs?
33 years and counting of eligibility for this lady. She has been another one of those women in the music industry who's been able to, refresh the image, come out with new sounding music, continue to innovate. My girl Cher is
Yeah,
not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
that
and
was
she
on my
ought to
list too.
be. Yeah, she really should be. 33 years they've been just not putting her in there, and I think that's absolutely silly. I'm also gonna go with maybe a little obscure. I don't know really because I don't. When I talk to people casually and I bring up this band, they're like, "Who?" And then I have to tell them a couple of songs to go look up, and they're like, "Yeah, you're right. They're great." Doctor Hook.
Mhm.
If you don't know who they are, you need to look them up. Cover of the Rolling Stones, Sylvia's Mother, When You're in Love with a Beautiful Woman, all of those kinds of songs. Please look them up, particularly on YouTube. If you can find the video, the music that they recorded while they were on a boat, you can tell that they're like inside a boat when they're recording it. Look for that particular uh, snippets of video. Really good stuff there. Billy Idol, excuse me? 17 years and he's still not in. Megadeth, not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's silly to me. And I'm also going to bring up Mary J. Blige because that lady is a powerhouse and has been for a long time. And along with Queen Latifah, was really part of bringing more female voices into the world of hip hop and R&B. And if you're gonna talk about Missy Elliott, I don't think you can really have a great conversation until you start to bring up Mary J. Blige. So she also makes it onto my I can't believe she's been snubbed list.
It's a great snub list. Truly appreciate you bringing that to our attention. Again, if you want to look who's been snubbed, go to futurerocklegends.com and you can see the snub list right there for you. That's a great reference tool to see exactly which groups have been snubbed, if they've been nominated before, and also as well how many years they've been snubbed. Really just a great pleasure to go ahead and take a look at that because it gives you a better idea exactly which awesome groups are out there that have not reached that level of success as of yet. So Mike and Phoebe, I know Mike, you were still looking up some names right there. Anybody stand out to you guys?
I'm looking at the list now, the updated list that we weren't given. So this is now the correct list. So Outcast, The Offspring, those are mine just off the top here. Let's see here. Who else? Megadeth, like Melinda, what you said. Let's see here. Who else? Still looking. Yeah, Cher, that's really strange to me that she wasn't chosen. Blue Oyster Cult, love them. And I think was that 3 or 4 that I rattled off?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're at 3.
Yeah. B-52s, let's see here, and Alice in Chains. Those are my updated, revised version.
Okay, fair enough. Mike, any thing stands out to you?
Yes, I do. I do have all my 5, and my very first one would be Barry White.
Mm-hmm.
Barry White is, of course, an iconic person for all the love songs of getting people in their special moods.
Yes, that's for sure.
there's-
That iconic voice.
Yeah, there's a lot of Barry White babies out there.
That's a very distinct voice that you'll never forget. The next one is the Commodores.
Yeah.
I don't know why they weren't in there. Or why, they've never, who knows, because they've been around a long time and they do produce very good music. The next one would be Johnny Burdette or Bernadette or Burnett. Yeah, Johnny Burnett. And then who can forget Ozzy Osbourne?
Yes.
He can't forget himself.
Come on, really. I mean, that's almost like Willie Nelson. I mean, geez Louise. Mm-hmm. And then Pentra.
I think Black Sabbath has gotten in, if I'm not mistaken. Is Black Sabbath in? Black Sabbath, I think, was inducted. So if that's
okay. So that's okay. But
inducted with them. So yes. Oh, he was inducted with them.
Okay, so he was in that aspect. Okay, but then my last one would be Pantera. Oh, Pantera. I'm sorry, Pantera. Got to correct myself.
But Pantera, obviously, I love these hair bands just being mentioned. It just brings them back to life, talking Motley Crue and all that. So yeah, Black Sabbath was inducted in 2006, just to let you know. So
Oh, okay. All right.
yeah,
Okay.
so he's in there, but as a singles artist, that doesn't mean he can't be nominated as a singles artist or be inducted as a singles artist on its own because he's done so many iconic things on his own. I know that I believe Phil Collins is someone that, even though Genesis is in there and it has been inducted, I think Phil Collins in there. I
He's not on
think
the
he's
snub list.
okay. So let me see if he got in. Actually, he's in as a member of Genesis, yes, but not as a solo entry, which is weird. Kind of weird. He's not on the snub list because he's had so many iconic hits on his own. But once again, it is Alternative Twist Radio's Mike and Phoebe, the Mike and Phoebe show. But before we go head on out and let them explain to you why you need to catch Alternative Twist Radio and the great stuff that they're always doing there, I want to go ahead and let the boardroom know here my top 10 snubs. So I'm going to go right here for starting with Phil Collins, is what I mentioned. Phil Collins. Phil
Yeah.
Collins is a big snub for me. Cher, as we mentioned earlier, is a big snub because of how many iconic hits she has. I think she's in with Sonny and Cher, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I think yeah. Let me go. I'll check up on that. But yeah, definitely Cher on her own has so many great and iconic hits herself. Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey, why she's not been nominated yet, or why she's not in yet as a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame artist, I don't understand. B-52s, iconic 80s music, so I think that should also be mentioned. Outkast, which has
Hmm.
been a great part of the hip hop culture. I think that their music has been outstanding, and I think
That
it's
yeah, that
yeah,
Atlians album alone should have gotten them
yes,
in. Really, so good.
absolutely. I'm a absolutely huge electronic music fan, and the Chemical Brothers and
Hmm.
Crystal Method, why they're not in there, I don't know, because they have helped define the late 90s, early 2000s electronic music. And actually, a lot of their music is still played to this day. And the group that really pushed things off, Kraftwerk, for the electronic music scene. They have been nominated 4 times, but have yet to be in. They really defined in the 80s, and them and the Art of Noise. Them and the Art of Noise have really defined exactly what the instrumental music scene was at that time. And I think both have such a great influence and should be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And for the punk scene, I would say the DKs, the Dead Kennedys. I think at that time in the 80s, if you were into the punk scene, you were into the DKs. And I think that unfortunately that they've just been forgotten about over the years. I think they should still be a great part of what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is about. But my number one, as is every year on this show, that I always mention and that we always go ahead and lament over on the show, is the Monkees. Why they are not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a matter of the individual who runs the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for many years having reported issue with the Monkees and what they represented, because I think it goes back to their days of, oh, they don't play their own instruments, but hey, they did eventually play their own instruments on their songs. Oh, it was studio musicians. They did play their instruments and sung their own songs, and they became so iconic. They were at one time, you could say, almost as big or even just as big and even outpacing here in the States just for a short period of time the Beatles themselves. There was no group, maybe even the Stones, you can't even say that, but the Monkees did. The Monkees outsold. There were times where the Beatles albums were pushed off the number one spot by the Monkees albums at their heyday. They also transformed the music television scene by actually having a music television show that got revived on MTV. And then they obviously went on tour after that. I know there's only one living member left, but I think the Monkees should at least get a consideration for it, and it's a travesty that they have not been nominated as of yet or even inducted. But I know it's political when it comes to them. From what I've seen and the stories and the articles that I've read over the years, that it's kind of personal, and I'm very sad to see that. I think if you talk to and ask Mickey Dolenz, he never expects, and then none of the other monkeys, after what they've heard over the years, they've never expected to get in. I would like to still see them get in at some point in time. So that is my very passionate argument every year that I have for the monkeys, and the monkeys unfortunately get snubbed once again. But if everyone out there has thoughts on what artists they feel got snubbed in this year's list or every year's list of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, please let us know. Popculturecosmos at yahoo.com or popculturecosmos on social media. But before we head on out, Melinda, I think we got to go ahead and turn over the boardroom to the Alternative Twist Radio's Mike and Phoebe and let them explain why not only they should check out the Mike and Phoebe show, but hang around for some great stuff going on always at Alternative Twist Radio. So I hand it over to you.
Yeah, Gerald, Melinda, thank you so much for having us on. So we are an all indie original station, all genres. We play rock, metal, EDM. We play jazz, country, bluegrass, all kinds of music, and it's all original artists. And we love our artists. I mean, so check them out. We stream 24/7, all free at alternativetwist.com. Then click on Listen Live. We also have, of course, Pop Culture Cosmos as your podcast, and the Multiverse also. So 2 of your shows on our programming. And we added, yes, we do. And then we also have Mike and Phoebe show that we added in the new year. So that's really fun podcast. We have in-studio guests on our show. And we also have another segment that's for funny news only, which I really love, especially. So if you're bored and you just want to listen to something funny, the news nowadays is so overdone, so overrated. It's really negative. And what Mike and I love to do is bring the funny. We're funny people. We like to laugh, keep it light. We like to make people laugh. So you know what? We're just going to put on our own little show, do funny stuff, silly stuff, and it's nothing serious. So that's Mike and Phoebe's show every other week. So when we have the in-studio guests, for the first or 1 week, then the next week, then it's, serious. It's about City of Paris, which is awesome, our local community here in California. And then the following week, we do our funny stuff. So we alternate. So we like to give back to the community by bringing the news, bringing the voice for the local community here. And then we also bring the funny. So we do a little bit of both. Yeah, so stream online 24/7 at alternativetwist.com, and our podcasts are free to download and listen to under the podcast section under Alternative Twist.
We bring it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. And it's a great show. I've listened to it myself. I really appreciate, again, we're so honored to be a part of the station's lineup for both of our shows. We're thinking about adding a third show where it's an hour of Melinda teasing me for an hour. How about that?
Oh, I love it.
I mean, the show writes itself at that point, right?
Yes. Well, actually, half hour is roasting Gerald Glassford, and the other half will be roasting Robbie Ross. By Melinda Barkhouse Ross. There you go.
It's a roasting show, cooking show. I like it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And when we videotape it beforehand, record it beforehand, I got to go ahead. She's going to just rip on me for a half hour, and I'm just going to sit there.
So you're going to feel like fried chicken then, aren't you?
Probably fried chicken that's already been thrown out. So, right there, left for dead, per se. But once again, it is Alternative Twist Radio. Please go ahead and check it out today, alternativetwist.com with the Mike and Phoebe show. Go ahead and check out their podcast. Melinda, I just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to go ahead and talk about your thoughts on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Any last thoughts from you? And I'll also go back to you, Mike and Phoebe. But Melinda, any last thoughts before we head on out?
Yeah, it'll just be super cool if Missy gets in this year. I think that I really just think that she is just an incredibly cool, human being. And if I could meet her and shake her hand and say thank you for the music and thank you for just being you and being consistent with that, I would melt at the opportunity. I think that she's absolutely brilliant. So my fingers are crossed for Missy this year.
Okay, there you go. Mike, Phoebe, any last thoughts before we head on out?
I would love to have Ozzy Osbourne. He was snubbed, but I would like to have him on the list now. So if people can vote for him, I'm going to go vote for him. So for next year, that would be fantastic. I would like that.
So will I too.
There you go. Absolutely. And he would probably vote as well for himself. Yes.
Darren!
Yes.
Vote for
Even though his I guess touring career is over, maybe he'll still
Yeah.
do some recording over the course of the rest of his life. But I'm wishing him a happiness, though. He's done so much for the music scene. So I already know he's in with Black Sabbath, but as a solo artist, I think he should be obviously nominated and inducted as well. So great thoughts from Alternative Twist Radios. Mike and Phoebe, please go ahead and check them out today at alternativetwist.com. All the great stuff that they're doing, the music, the podcast, the shows, and of course, as always, twice a week, us here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.